Okay, here we go. We're going to learn today. We learned yesterday the law of sines. So today, guess what we're going to learn? The law of cosines. There is no law of tangents. No, there's not. Okay, there's just law of cosines and law of sines. So law of sines is right here. So we're going to use it with a triangle that's not a right triangle. It's not a right triangle, so we can, tell you what, I'm not even going to, let's just do this. Let's show you the formula, first of all, for the law of cosines, and then I'm just going to show you how to use it since we're a little bit low on time. Not real low, but let's do this. Do you remember Pythagorean theorem? A lot of times you say a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but then we kind of change around a little bit, saying c squared is equal to what? What would we do? C squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Okay, that's Pythagorean theorem. Well, the law of cosine starts off like the Pythagorean theorem, just like this. We just add a little bit of extra stuff to it, that's all. So really, if you can remember Pythagorean theorem, then add a little extra stuff, then you've got the law of cosines. So it's minus 2ab cosine of c. It's capital C. So you're just helping somebody with their books. I mean, you still got like 5 minutes. It doesn't mean you have to pack up right now.
Yeah, I'm not watching YouTube tonight.
Okay. Well, you can still watch me right now and not pack up everything. Okay. So here we go. See, wasn't that fun? Won't you remember that?
Well, maybe. Yes, I will, because I'll be watching on YouTube tonight.
Okay.
Got him!
Yay, math. Okay. All right. Here we go. So that's what we have. Now watch this. If I call this angle A, call this angle B, and angle C. We talked about this yesterday, but I just want to say it one more time. If this is angle A, what are we going to call this side right here? I could call it BC, but it would be easier, just lowercase a. All right. If this is angle B, then this side would be little b, and then if this is angle C, then this would be little c. So this C, A, and B right here represent the sides. So does this little a and little b. What's the only thing that represents an angle in this formula? The C, the big C, the capital C, okay, because we're taking the cosine of an angle. Agreed? So if you look at this, when do we use the law of cosines? Well, if I don't know any other angles and I'm trying to find an angle, I can use the law of cosines. If I know one angle and I'm trying to find another side, okay, then I can find it. So you can actually find it. If you have a side, an angle, and a side, I can use the law of cosines. If you know all three sides, you can use the law of cosines. Now think about it. If I knew two sides and one angle, is there any way I can use the law of sines for that? There's not, because I got two angles in that law, isn't there? Okay, and I wouldn't be able to. Let's see if I said that right. Right, I wouldn't be able to use this if I was going to try to solve for something with the law of sines. Same thing with if I had three sides, I wouldn't be able to use the law of sines to find it. So I'm going to use the law of cosines. So let's put some numbers in so it makes a little bit more sense to us. I'm just going to get rid of this A, B, and C right here. Put some numbers in its place and see what we get. So let's say this angle down here is 28 degrees. And we'll call this side X. And we'll call this side 11, and we'll call this side 9. So there we go. Now look what we have. I have a side, I have an angle, and I have a side. You see that? So could I use the law of sines, S-I-N-E-S, could I use the law of sines to be able to solve for this side right here? No, I couldn't, because remember the law of sines. I have to know an angle and a side opposite that angle, don't I? Would you agree? On the law of sines, the stuff you did yesterday, I have to at least know one combination. I need to know one angle and a side opposite. I don't know it, okay? Well, you say, yeah, but I know this side, but I don't know this angle up here. You know this side, but you don't know the angle that's opposite that. And there's no way to figure out those two angles, is there? So you can't use the law of sines. You'd be stuck. So you have to have another way. We can't just use regular trig functions, sine, cosine, tangent, because we don't have a right triangle. Okay, so what we have to do is have another way, and that other way is a law of cosines. So let's do this real quick. It's actually pretty simple. This is about the easiest situation that you're going to encounter. So if this is our angle, it's even angle C, isn't it? So we can say what? What would our side C be in this situation? What would our side C be in this situation? It'd be the X, right? Because side C is opposite angle C, right? We just happen to call it something different. Right? We just happen to call it X. We can do that. So what do we get? We get X squared equals. Now what are my A and B here? 9 and 11, right? Okay, 9 and 11. So what does my formula say we're going to do with those? I'm going to square them. So I got 9 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times what? Those same two numbers, right? 9 times 11. And then we have what? The cosine of angle C. What is my angle that's opposite this side right here? I know it this time, don't I? It's 28 degrees. So watch. This side right here has to be opposite that angle. Make sense? So it doesn't matter what letters you use and all that kind of stuff. As long as this side is the side that's opposite this angle that you put in here, then you're good to go. Is that all right? So now what we can do is we can just solve for that. What would you use to solve for this? Calculator. Okay, I happen to have a calculator right here. And let's punch some stuff in. Now watch, I want to give you, before I put some numbers in, I do want to show you something. Sometimes on the calculator, if you want to do it all in one shot, which I like to do, I don't like to do a little bit, write it down, a little bit, write it down, and then plug those back in. It's too much stuff to do. So what I'm going to do is this. On the calculator, I am going to put a parentheses right here and a parentheses right there on my own. Everybody see that? So I put it in yellow so it stands out a little bit, so make sure you understand what I'm doing here. So let's put some stuff in. I'm not going to do the square root yet. I'll do that at the very end. But watch, I'm going to put 9 squared. So let's do this. 9 squared plus 11 squared minus, now what do I put? Do I just put 2 times 9? Put a parentheses. So watch, here's a left parentheses. I put that in there. And now I can go ahead and put my multiplication in. It's 2 times 9 times 11. And then cosine, I don't have to put times. All I got to do is hit cosine on this calculator of 28. Now look, do you see where after cosine it puts a little parentheses here? Well, I close that one off. But I got to put this yellow one on right here, so I got to put an extra parentheses on there. Does that make sense? Because they put this 28 in a little parentheses, so I need to put this other parentheses at the very end. Make sure you do that. I had kids in the last class coming up to me and saying, I didn't get that, I got something else. And I looked at their calculator, and they didn't put all the parentheses that I put in here, okay? I'm showing you exactly what to punch into the calculator if you have a graphing calculator. I'll show you how to do it if you don't have a graphing calculator in a second. All right? So now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit equals. And I think I put everything in there. It's 27.17. But that's what all this is. X squared is equal to this. So what do I do to this 27.17 and all that? Take the square root. That's right. I got to take the square root. Now in this calculator, this is how you take the square root. What I'm going to do is hit the square root button. Do you see where it says x squared? It's got a little square root symbol right there. So I hit second function, square root. Now what am I taking the square root of? This last thing that I have. On this calculator, you see it says ANS for answer. So what I'm going to do is the last thing that you plugged in, the last answer you got, if I hit the answer key, it's going to put it right here. Do you see that? Alright, so I hit, how do I get to that answer though? It's yellow and it's behind it. I got to hit second function, then I hit that and I got an answer. So it's taking the square root of the last thing that I had an answer for. So really what's it doing? Taking the square root of 27.176 and all that. Make sense? Okay, so now I just hit enter, and there it is. That's my answer, 5.2. And it is a length of a side, so I'm going to keep it 5.2. Alright, and that's the length of this side right here. That's all they ask you to find. That's not too hard, is it? The hardest thing is knowing how to operate your calculator. Now, what if you had a TI-30, one of those smaller ones that's just a scientific calculator, not a graphing calculator? This is what I would do. Listen carefully. Okay, because a lot of you, who has this regular scientific TI-30? Yeah, more than have the graphing. So look, first thing I would do, I would go 9 squared plus 11. I would basically do it just like I did it here, but with a little bit of change down the end. I go 9 squared plus 11 squared minus. Then on my little TI-30, I'd put a left parentheses, just like I did right here. Then put 2 times 9 times 11, and then hit times. You're not going to hit cosine 28. What are you going to do? 28 cosine. Okay? Now watch. Then you're going to have to put a parentheses because this is going to be in a parentheses. Okay? So you hit one parentheses, that's this, but then you got to hit a second parentheses, which is that. Now that's not your answer. That should be that 27. Are you any of you guys doing it? Now, on your calculator, you don't have to hit the answer thing. All you got to do is hit the square root button. So if you have 27 point blah, 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 all you got to do is hit the square root button, which is a button by itself, isn't it? You don't have to hit the square root or the second function button. So you just hit the square root, and then boom, you should get 5.2. Practice it, okay? You've got to know your calculator. When it comes to a quiz or a test, don't borrow somebody's calculator that you're not used to. All right? People have done that before. They've come in, oh, I'm using my friend's calculator, and it's a graphing calculator. I've never used one of those before. Well, don't use your friend's calculator on a test. Use the one that you're used to, okay? Now listen. We ran out of time because we were doing silly stuff at the beginning. That's my fault. But there is another example where you're actually going to solve for the angle. So what I want you to do is this. All right, you've got to promise me that you're going to do this. You got to go home and go to the YouTube for first period. Okay, so go to first period because I finished both of those in first period today. So we already did that one, but all you got to do is skip ahead. Skip past this one and look at the second example, and that will show you how to find a missing angle. The math is a little bit different, okay? So make sure you go and look at it. Don't just blow me off on this. Make sure you go and look at it so you know how to do the math to find the angle, okay? That's it.